ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing on Miss Shilo Creed. She is a fantastic author, as I said at the very top, and her most recent work is Plunged. It is the first of a trilogy, the Three Worlds trilogy. It's a story about faith and a whole lot more. And if you think Christian sci-fi is hokey or boring, you haven't read Shilo at all. Shilo, first, thank you so much for coming on and being part of tonight's show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
All right. Now we had you on the radio show a little while back, and when I was speaking at the dates, I was surprised it was so long because it feels like we just got together because I enjoyed the conversation. That's really what it boiled down to. We were talking specifically about the book, and we will circle back around to the books before we close out our conversation tonight, because I definitely want to make sure that the Rumble audience gets exposed the same as our radio show audience did. And as we go back to that, I do want to start with a very different message, and it's something that I found myself chastising a lot of people that, especially on social media, that claim to be conservative, claim to be MAGA, claim to be all blah, blah, this, that, the other. And yet they were doing nothing but making fun of or being overly aggressive to people who were victims of the Los Angeles County fires. And to me, that's not something that's appropriate to be done. It's like, I don't care, even if you are talking about the richest neighborhoods, if you're talking about somebody who has taken the energy and the time and effort to build a home, not just have a house somewhere, but build a home, then it is devastating when you lose that. And some of these people lost more than possessions. They've lost loved ones. And I've seen some of them who've lost pets that you would have thought it was a family member. But then again, for some people, that is their family. And so all of this is just an over-the-top thing. So that brings us back to the question, and part of why I titled today's show the way I did. And that is, what is the appropriate response for Christians when it comes to holding the appropriate people accountable, but still being compassionate?
Well, I think that we need to focus on Jesus' words. Excuse me. And he really prayed, when he prayed to the Father, his one prayer for the body was that we would be in unity. So I think as Christians, we need to keep that really at the top of our list and say, how, are we pleasing Jesus Christ with our unity, first of all, between each other, and then expanding that out into the world. So I think we need to be very careful, because in today's society, it's so easy to trigger people. It's so easy to get that huge reaction that you really don't want, of a very negative reaction. So I think we can all make a huge impact if we keep Christ first, because he always thought of others. He never thought of himself first. So let's be like him and put ourselves in those people's shoes who've lost everything, and truly extend our prayers, our help if we can give it, and especially extend, the hand of Christian brotherhood that says, we're going to care for you. So.
Yeah, and it is important as we try to be constructive for our fellow Americans that are facing loss, that we keep in mind that this is a common condition, even amongst our fellow Americans here throughout the country. We can't afford to forget about the folks in North Carolina, for example. I'm here in East Tennessee, and part of East Tennessee got hit nearly as bad as Western Carolina, but Western North Carolina, there are cities that are just completely gone, and there are people that are living in shacks or tents in the middle of this Arctic blast we just had. And we need to make sure that not only are we focused on the word in how we speak, but also in our actions. And you said that, but we have to remember that we're surrounded by people, no matter how bad we think we have it, and we've all got problems. there are still plenty of people that really need us to step up. And we don't really get there if we just start fighting amongst ourselves and try to one up one another, or uh, own somebody on X. And it just seems like it's become such a competition to get attention that the whole purpose of social media has been lost. Nobody uses it the right way anymore, it seems like.
That's true. And it's easy, I think, when we have social media, we have separation. We're not sitting face to face with somebody. There are things you would never dream of saying if you were in the same room with somebody else. But especially our children growing up with technology, it's really tough. It's created so many barriers to having real relationships. So you're spot on that social media is really causing a lot of gaps, and it's almost like a video game where you go out and you experience violence in a video game over and over and over again. To you, that becomes normal. So you're not surprised when you go out and you see people committing heinous acts in the world because they've been doing it day after day. So I think it's sort of the same way, really, with social media on a lesser level, that people get used to just saying whatever they want to. I can be rude and mean, and well, they won't reply for I don't know how long, and I don't have to read it if I don't want to. So our whole society has really become very fragmented and separate, which is a major problem.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole concept of the keyboard warrior that actually started when blogs first started showing up, or actually even just message boards in the earliest days of AOL, when everybody was logging on by modem. We saw the keyboard warrior mentality start. It would be really nice if we saw some warriors in Christ arrive. Now, I say it like that because there's way too many people that aren't, but we are seeing that actually. Or there does seem to be a whole new revival, and I think that artists like yourself are going a long way towards helping to fuel that, because people are realizing, especially since there's been such a push towards secularism for so long here in the States. It's been looked at being uncool to be Christian, or blah blah blah, whatever the distraction has been. You can't be a feminist and be Christian because you have to submit. It's like, well, as a wife, you're supposed to submit to your husband, but your husband's also supposed to love you as he does Christ, and honor you. And so then that submission just basically means there's a mutual relationship. It doesn't mean, oh, you must bow down. And people twist those common misconceptions as far as they can to try and manipulate people and keep them separated from Christ. And that comes from fear. And I think we need to hold off on that topic and stay on this. But we have seen a reemergence. People have started to realize they are missing something. And now books like Plunged and other new Christian media is kind of making it cool, exciting, and it's rekindling both an interest in the storytelling and also to rediscover the original word.
Absolutely. I heard a preacher say once that the reason that we're losing young people in the church is because their Christian parents were so focused on safety. They said, well, we'll go do missions work after the kids are grown because we have to keep our kids 100% safe. And that mentality just kind of goes along into raising your child. Throughout the whole raising of your child, you've never taken any risks. It was so important to you to keep them safe that you never allowed them to see God move. Because it's when we step out in faith, it's when we're beyond ourselves, that miracles happen. So I think that preacher was really correct in saying that we need to step out in faith. We need to be doing the works that Christ did so that other generations can see the power of God. And I think that's exactly what you're describing, is that there is a resurgence. There's an up and coming movement of people who say, Jesus said nothing will be impossible to them that believe. And that's me. and I'm going to be there, and I'm going to see those things happen. So it is really exciting to see people stepping out in faith, because God always meets you there. He never fails. His word is spot on, and you can, 100% trust it. Another point about social media is, I heard the other day that there are actually millions of bots, AI, whatever you want to call them, out there, and they have like full accounts. They have names. They look like real people. It's very difficult to tell who's a bot and who isn't, um, and that they've actually been programmed and trained to kind of be very left leaning, to be very anti conservative. So sometimes, I get on social media sort of rarely, and I'm shocked at, just reading some of the comments. It's actually shocking to me. And then I step back and I think, I really honestly wonder if that was a bot. Was that even a human? I don't know. So be encouraged too that some of the things you're reading on social media are, they're not real humans saying them. So I think our society is, we definitely have a long way to go, but I don't think we're as far gone as it looks like. Maybe if you just take a look at social media. So
Right. Yeah, it's not really the uh, horrible wasteland that it seems like. It's just a slightly bad, horrible wasteland. um, you know, one of the things that struck me about when you were talking about the safe mission mindset, I think that's in large part what has led to, in recent years, the need to make mission trips within the United States. Uh, that's not a thing that we used to have to worry about. I mean, there were some areas of the country that needed help, but generally they were still better off. So we focused on spreading the word and helping communities outside of the country. But by staying in your little safe bubble, you made it so that there are communities in places like Illinois and places like uh, North Dakota where there is a true need for mission work to be done. So again, this reawakening, I think, is going to go a long way towards helping to end that. And I certainly appreciate the mindset. Now, again, I'm looking at the clock, and good conversations tend to go by very quickly. And so I'm going to have to stick a pin on that part of it because I want plenty of time left for you to discuss again tonight about the book Plunged. I think it's a phenomenal concept. We talked about it extensively on the radio show, but for the folks that are going to be seeing and hearing this for the first time, I'm going to let you lay out the general premise of the book, and we'll go from there.
of course, yeah. Plunged was a book that the Lord really instructed me to write. I knew I was supposed to write that book. I didn't start writing it for many years. I wrote a lot of other books. I've got 38 books altogether. And I knew that I needed to hone my skill before I started on that book. And during that time, had some major heart complications pop up. And I had decided literally 2 weeks before those heart conditions showed up that I was going to take Jesus Christ as my healer for myself. He was going to be my physician, and I was going to trust his word when he said, "By his stripes you were healed." So it was quite a journey. It was a battle of faith, to find the tenacity of faith that it takes to see a miracle happen. It was a long journey for me, and I couldn't be more thankful that it's a journey that I took. Honestly, it has changed my life. It has given me so much peace and comfort. Um, and so, really, Plunged is my story of the determination to believe God in the face of physical symptoms, the determination to believe God no matter what everybody else said, because there were plenty of people saying you can't trust God for this. You have got to go to a doctor. Um, you know, so that whole journey really kind of condensed into Jacob Carter's story in Plunge. So he is a Navy SEAL, and in the world, he is one of the strongest, smartest, most capable men that exist. And he is forced into a military experiment that plunges him into the spiritual side of our world. And there he discovers that, his true self, his spirit, is atrophied and weak because he hasn't been taking care of it. He hasn't been nourishing it. So it's really kind of those two journeys entwined, a journey of faith, of just the wild abandon of saying, Lord, you said this in your word. I believe it. And here we go. Let's see what happens. Kind of all mixed in with that sci-fi, quantum physics, fight scenes, action scenes, all mixed together into Plunged. So that's the premise of the book.
Yeah. Some of the things that I really appreciate about the storytelling is you have reached out. You have a military expert that's helped you to hone and better bring a realism to the military side of it. But you still manage to be writing about what you know, that spiritual battle that you yourself were in, and it's one that a lot of us face in one way or another, and unfortunately, not all of us recognize it for what it is. So I think that for anybody who's willing to read it and read it with an open mind and an open heart, you'll begin to recognize, hey, this is something that speaks to me. I definitely believe that's the case. And beyond the nuances there, it feels like there's also kind of a reemergence of classic literature as well. It feels some very C.S. Lewis type themes that managed to make its way, not a direct one-to-one correlation, of course, but definitely some inspiration seemed to play in there. Is that just me trying to be more literary than I should be, or was there some inspiration there too?
No, I love C.S. Lewis Chronicles of Narnia. I grew up reading those books, so definitely spot on. There's a lot of inspiration there. Jesus used stories too. That he told parables, so stories are inherent to who we are as humans. Uh, I think that we learn the best and we retain the lessons the best through story form. And it's funny to hear, people reviewing the book and saying that they could really identify with Jacob Carter, even though he's a Navy SEAL and he has incredible skill here. In the spiritual world, he had to relearn everything. So it's fun to hear readers say, that they really could just that they were like right there with Jacob in the story, which is just super awesome to me. So.
Yeah. Well, I have to agree. It's definitely what has been the general reactions to the book. I can't imagine you'd be getting very much negative pushback anywhere. There's always going to be that one wise guy that's got to be contrarian regardless. But has it been overwhelmingly positive? Because that's what I would expect.
Yes, it has. It absolutely has. To be 100% honest, um, this book will step on some toes. I'm
Mm.
not. I'm not. I don't pull any punches in there. The truth is there, and that bothers some people, and I'm okay with that. That's okay. If it bothers you, that's okay. Maybe that seed will grow later on. But there is a lot of spiritual truth that sort of takes on the religious traditions that have
Mhm.
kind of kept Christians powerless. They've kept us weak. They've kept us very complacent, sleepy, all the things that have kind of led our country to where we are now. So Plunge really takes those on too. So yes, the reviews and people reading and contacting me have been overwhelmingly positive. But I don't doubt that as more and more readers go through the book, that there will be a few who are very disgruntled at the content. And I'm ready for that. I'm totally good with that. That's fine with me. So.
Well, if you're not ruffling some feathers, you're not doing it right. That's the bottom. All right. Again, I want to give you a chance for right now to throw out any final thoughts you'd like to, and then after that, please let everybody know where they can find the book, where they can find you, share your websites, and if you invite people to follow you anywhere on social media, of course, we talked about how bad that is, but if you do, feel free to share handles and platforms as well.
Thank you. Yeah. So I would grab Plunged and read the novel. We do have a 9-week study guide That's on pre-order right now. That is a deep dive into the spiritual concepts found in Plunged. So if you go through the book, it's an allegory. So there's a lot of symbolism, a lot of things you maybe you didn't pick up the first time through. I've had people say they've read it 3 times in a row, like they've finished the book and just flipped to the beginning and started again. So lots of things in there that like you pick up the more you read it, the more you get. But the Plunged study guide will definitely be that deep dive. So if you're hungry, if you need God to move in your life, if you need to see your faith move mountains, grab Plunged and grab the study guide and just dive in. Come in wholehearted, ask the Holy Spirit for wisdom and direction. Um, Other notes, we have book 2. I actually just got book 2 back today from the Navy SEAL who has been helping me edit and really, make sure all the weaponry in there and all of the tactics and moves that Jacob uses are accurate. I just got that back from him today, so super pumped. And that is also on pre-order. So you can find me at shilocreed.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, and you can also ask me questions there on the Got Questions page. So if you have something in the book that you really, want clarification on, go ahead and message me there. I'd love to hear from you. Yeah, I'm not on social media very much. Honestly, it is just not really a place that I try to spend a ton of time. So not there too much, but my website is an awesome place. You can also follow me on BookBub, Amazon. Those are great places to stay in touch as well.
All right. I know we had discussed that before too, which is why I kind of very sheepishly mentioned it. But you know, uh, sometimes when you're in the arts or you're in media of any kind, you get nudged into it whether you want to or not. So if you've got to have them, you might as well promote them while you can.
Thank
You
you.
know, I know I also mentioned this when you were on the radio with me too, but I definitely see this as something that Hollywood would be interested in working with. I do hope that when the day comes when this has the opportunity to make the leap from the page to the screen, that we fight long and hard, and by we I mean you, of course, to make sure that they don't remove the things that are truly of merit and value from the story, the way we know the typical Hollywood crowd would like to do.
That's actually something I've been praying over for years. So that has a lot of prayer coverage already. That the Lord would guard that when it happens, because I really, honestly, I don't doubt a bit that it will jump onto the screen someday. So here's what I tell everybody who picks up Plunged: brace yourself. It is a wild ride, and it is going to be a blast. So
Yeah, yeah. I usually you can tell very early on when you start reading something if it has that cinematic quality to it. Plunge does. I definitely feel that. All right, Shiloh, again, thank you so much for joining me again, and especially for the first time here at Rumble. Hopefully, these folks enjoyed it as much as the radio folks did, and they did enjoy our conversation, by the way. I got so much positive feedback, and I'm glad I had a chance to tell you in person. In the
thank you.
meanwhile, definitely, I know at this point I don't have to tell you, but keep up all the great work, and I look forward to getting to talk to you again sometime.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Miss Shilo Creed.